before I dive into this interview today with Sarah, I want you to know that this is part 2 of a 2-part series. So if you haven't already, make sure you go back and listen to the first part because it sets the scene. It gives you the whole context of her story and everything. We talk about so many things like toxic distorted beliefs that landed her in an abusive relationship, trying and failing to be perfect, trying to keep up with religious standards. We talk about self-compassion. We talk about legacy work. So it's such an amazing episode. Make sure you go and catch that and then pop back here and I will see you then.
I wanted the answer to be, I rubbed the genie lamp, my genie lamp God, I rubbed that lamp and he parted the Red Sea and I got to the other side. And now I'm just like, oh, wasn't God good? Because we kind of think it's like, God's going to fix it. God's going to come through. And, you know, it's like he saves, he heals. Faith's a lot stronger than what you feel. You know, God is your rescuer. And I was like, no, he wasn't. I begged for him to be. And then I always had to disconnect and give up because it hurt.
You're listening to the Spiritually Unboxed podcast. I'm your host, Leah Samara, spiritual mentor and authenticity strategist for highly driven female leaders. Each week, we'll dive into deeper conversations, empowering you to live your most authentic and wildly impactful life beyond religious, familial, and societal boxes. Welcome to the deep end. Subscribe so you don't miss a show. So if you were to isolate, what would you say have been the biggest turnoffs about God, Jesus, church for you?
Oh gosh.
Like what would be like the top 3?
My personal thing, and I will say very, very like today, and this is something I would like to get past. But today, if I had to say it, what my biggest issue is, if a church put me on stage, okay, to say my journey, what they would want me to say is that God parted the Red Sea for me. And I feel like I swam and nearly drowned and barely made it to shore. And then everybody wants to clap for God that I got to the other side.
Yes.
And I wanted God to part the Red Sea for me. I thought God would part the Red Sea. That's where I currently am, right? That's in my messy middle. That's not I've overcome at the other side.
Yeah.
I've overcame so many things at the other side, but it's like, I'm real, you know, and I can in my head kind of go, well, God gave you breath and God gave you life. And I was like, but I didn't want him to. I wanted to die.
Yeah.
At multiple parts in this journey.
Yes. Yeah.
It was a punishment that I was continuing to have to swim.
Yes.
I didn't want the air and the breath and and in my ugliest parts of my heart, I'm mad that now that life is so good and that I am on the other side, I feel like there's an expectation. It's like, oh God, what just wasn't God good? And I was like, where was he? Where was he?
Yes.
I swam and I really took another breath and I swam again and I prayed for the sea to part. And then I had religious people. Every single person who's ever hurt me has been, you know, a religious leader in every sense, throwing things, hoping I would drown, dragging my feet under the ocean. And I just somehow made it to the other side. And now that I'm on the other side, I don't know how to balance that. In the advice, I wanted the answer to be, I rubbed the genie lamp, my genie lamp God, I rubbed that lamp and he parted the Red Sea and I got to the other side. And now I'm just like, oh, wasn't God good? And I don't know how to actually tell my real story with that happy ending and how to advise other people in that. Because if you ask me what character in the Bible I align with so much, it would be Jacob wrestling with God.
Yeah.
And he won. And then God dislocated his hip. So he always had, like, that's the story. Or maybe even Job. And it's like, he's just sitting up with the devil, like, well, now let's see what we can throw at her and see what happens, you know? And those are stories in the Bible.
Yes. Yeah.
Those are the stories, but it's really bad for the brand to say. You're familiar with the song, Great is Thy Faithfulness?
Yes.
So strength for today and bright hope for tomorrow. That's one of the, you know, that's not in the Bible, but it's a very famous song. And I
Mm.
was like, strength for today and bright hope for tomorrow.
Mm.
Maybe we should be a little honest about that.
Mm.
Oh, and because we kind of think it's like, you know, hope for today. God's going to fix it. God's going to come through. And I'm very musical. I did church music for a long time. And, you know, it's like he saves, he heals. Faith's a lot stronger than what you feel. You know, God is your rescuer. And I was like, no, he wasn't. No, he wasn't.
Yeah.
I begged for him to be.
Yeah.
And then I almost had to disconnect and give up because it hurt, the pain of him not coming through.
Yes.
And
Yes.
anyone who I met in my real life, you know, Leah can see me on Facebook. I have the best life I know. My kids are doing amazing. Things are actually great with the ex right now. I'm so happily married. It's all, there's a piece that's like, that's not fair because look how good it's all worked out. And I'm trying to marry those two pieces in my heart to say,
Yes.
do you have any idea how much work it was to get here?
Yes. Yeah.
I wanted my daddy father to do the work for me.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
he did.
you're gonna make me cry.
And it's very sad.
It is.
I don't really know where my faith is going to go from here. I want the story that I get up on, not that I have to get up on stage, but you know, I vision that in my mind. Like, it's like, and then God came through for me.
Yeah.
And my life is so good. There's a verse in the Bible about in Job and, you know, God restoring the years that the locusts have eaten.
Yeah.
I mean, I really have the best life of anyone I know.
Yeah.
It's honestly, it's hard for me to make friends at this stage of my life because people who haven't the whole journey think it's just like everything's magically perfect for me. And it's like, no, I just prayed to die. And said, well, no, it's not all been, you know, that's very honest answer to say.
It is.
Where I'm, and the real loss of the belief that God was going to come through for me. That you know, I thought when I stepped out on this ledge, my life is A, better than I ever would have imagined, and B, I thought God would have shown up for me. In some ways, I didn't think I was going to have to do it so alone. And I want that to change moving forward. I want to not, if we did a podcast in a year, I want to not be saying those things, but can't talk about all the church people acting like they have it all perfect and everything's all like shiny and then not be honest about where I am personally at this very right?
It's one of the things you're really amazing at is sharing your journey and being really humble about where you are at and just share, you know, it's not like you came on here and you felt like you had to give the perfect answer, you know, the perfect God answer or a perfect answer that you felt other people would approve of. I think like I personally resonate with so much of that from my story. I remember being in my living room and just feeling so abandoned by God. I was married and I just didn't know what to do. And it was that sense of just such abandonment because I had believed so much of the same things. Like God would come through for me. He would rescue me. He's all powerful, all knowing. He sees me. He loves me. Like if all that is true, how can this be true? You know, so and I love the languaging of wrestling. I use it all the time as well. And it is that so much that Jacob passage of like, it's the wrestle of how do you bring those two just juxtaposing ideas together? How do they actually make sense? How can they make sense? Because we often go into these things with these lenses, with this conditioning of who God is. We're taught who God is, right? And so we just take on those beliefs and then we're like, well, this will happen. I remember talking to a friend and her dad had passed away and she was like, well, that's all that's ever the bad thing that's ever going to happen to me because God, that wasn't my bad thing and God will protect me from here on out. And I was like, wow, like, I don't feel like that's true. And so for me, it has been a long journey of wrestle and getting clearer lenses of God and clearer understandings and nuance, because we're so often taught as children, right? So as children, we make these beliefs. Yeah.
Right. And I don't know if there's a way around it, because the conversations we're talking about are maturity.
Yes.
Right. Nuance. So I can teach my children this because it's like teaching them rocket science, right? I mean, it's inappropriate, right? Because some of it is maturity.
Yeah.
But if I'm honest, so in my head, the way I've made it okay is like, well, who do I respect? Do I respect the person who says, well, this is the only thing bad that's ever happened to me? Is that who I like look up to and respect? Or is it the women and men who are real and honest about the wrestling? Who do I really respect? And, it's the people I try to be that person who's honest, because those are the people I respect. And if I'm super, super honest, that's still my pride, right? Right. If I'm really honest, it's still, little nuance of like, do I think I'm better than that person? Absolutely, I do.
That's hilarious.
That's probably not very nice, right?
Yeah. But from childhood, though, you just don't understand certain things. So they do teach certain beliefs. Did you ever sing that song in like Sunday school or whatever? My God is so big, so strong, and so mighty. There's nothing my God cannot do. But you're not sat down ever and talked about, you have free will and other people have free will. And, my psychologist said to me one day, she was like, if God came and rescued you and took away his free will and their free will, then he would also be taking away yours. And I was like, And so there are certain things that you just, it's the nuance and the understanding of the layers of it that as kids we can't do, but I feel like we can improve the way that we teach certain things. Yeah, like it's just, it's something you're never going to get perfect, is it? Even if, if you were teaching it to the best of your ability, which I'm sure a lot of people are already, but it's just that preparation. How do you prepare a child for life and for life's challenges? And I think that's something probably you've wrestled with as a parent. That's huge.
One thing that I feel very, very, very strongly about that I teach my kids is the idea of 3 strikes you're out, and that sense of when I was taught discernment, it was like the people in our church are good and outside the church is bad, right? That was discernment. Proved very fatal.
Yeah.
And so now, kind of a 3, that's weird, right? So when your intuition or spirit is like, it's a little weird or right, and really, even in my coaching practice, the teaching the 3 strikes you're out and that's weird, really the humility of humanity of like, if you invest a year or 2 or 3 into a person, friendship, coach, child's coach, partnership, marriage, and these are all the same thing. I want to say very clearly, it's all the same thing. It's really easy to put those dumb women, and I'm making quotes again for the people on the podcast, those dumb women or those dumb people who get in bad relationships. And then people really put that in a category of really stupid and codependent. And then they get in a bad business situation. They think, well, that's just a business situation. I'm not dumb for that. And it's like, but both of you got duped by a tricky person. Lots of people get duped by tricky people. Are you familiar with Cosby? Yes. Okay. He was like this sweetheart of a dad. And all of a sudden it's like people came out and said he was raping me. And it's like, no, he's a great guy. No, he's a great guy. No, he's a great guy. Right. I mean, it's just, it took so much evidence to leave, right? And people have had their money stolen. And there's no one has a story of I've never been duped. People tell themselves they would never be duped, and they are the most likely to be duped. And you are, okay, you better be, you better have some skill set and humility to teach your kids and teach and no, because if you're just like, well, I'm never going to get duped, those dumb girls who end up in bad relationships or dumb guys who end up in bad relationships are stupid and my kids aren't. Like, what?
Yes.
Terrible strategy.
Not seeing your own vulnerabilities as well. Like, it's again that pride thing of like, I'm like amazing, I'm impenetrable, I'm strong. Like I also don't agree with like I'm a strong woman. Like I'm not. I think life has taught me that I'm not, and I'm happy not being super strong all the time. But it's that, yeah, that pride of thinking it can never happen to me. And totally, as you were saying, like the other category, that's exactly how I saw it as well, as like this whole other, those people over there, that could never happen to me. It's over there, away from me, away from church, away from, yeah. I love what you're saying too about the weirdness, because I taught this recently in an intuition class, and it's okay to take weirdness as a red flag. Like it's okay for just weirdness alone. It doesn't have to be a major thing, but I always take weirdness as a red flag. I'm like, that was weird. And I note it.
It is 100% how I make my decisions. I've written 2 books on making decisions. The first, Becoming Toxic Person Proof, cleared the confusion and learn to trust yourself. The second, subtitle, Problem Solved, Simple Habits for Complex Decisions. You see a theme in my life that I've had to work through, right? And it's like, anytime I go, decision made, right? And the way I explain it is, I believe that God made my nervous system. I've done a lot of nervous system work, right, to calm it down, right? So this is not from a just severe trauma place, right? But I believe that God gave us nervous systems for a reason. And when you are, back we were around the campfire and there was a rustle in the woods, your body is made to go, something's wrong, run, right? You don't know, is that a crocodile, or is that a bear, or is that so when our ancient brains in the back of our minds go, something's wrong, run. By the time it gets to our verbal brains, is that a bear? Is that this? Is he a narcissist? Is he a sociopath? Is he just a con artist? Is he this, right? By the time it functions in your language brain, you have spent too much energy and time, and you are too close to the situation to as safe as I would like to see my children and see you, Leah, and see other people. By the time I've figured out the answers to all my questions, I am sucked in to have my questions answered at this point. That's smart girl syndrome. I need to research that.
I need to understand it as well, as the other thing. Like you don't need to understand anything. You just need to know, I felt this, it felt weird. It's okay to leave. Like I wish someone had told me that early on.
That's the message to my own kids. And I found, now I'm a 1 strike you're out rule, right? But as
I was like, 3's a lot. I'm pretty brutal with the same.
And I'm 1 at this point. But I've done, you're teaching intuition classes. I'm teaching, right? We've done a lot of work to learn to trust ourselves, so kind of in the starter phase, right? Or, when you're trying to figure that out, it can be, a kind of a 3 strikes you're out. It's a good dating rule, weird. Because Ben definitely had a that's weird, that very strong that's weird, that definitely could have sent him away, and a typical date may have said, we're wonderfully happy, but the 3 strikes you're out if you're in the process of learning, figure this, it becomes a pattern, right? There's a pattern of concern at that point.
So you've overcome a lot. And I want to talk about where you are at now and who you are now and what's available to you now, like what's possible, what's being expanded in you to be able to be doing podcasting and speaking, and you exploring comedy, you're doing all the things.
It looks like on the outside world that I'm always out of Ben and I had this discussion today. He goes, it looks like I'm out of my comfort zone, or it looks like I'm always trying new things. It's like, I don't feel like I'm trying really that many new things. I feel like I found out where my niche is, and I just play around in that niche. And it's just such a happy life. It's so fun and fulfilling. And
it's the play element, isn't it? So I think, especially for creative.
Very hard.
Yeah.
I have had to work so hard at that after my play area. Like when I've always self-scored myself in coaching things, it's always the play is just like 0, right? And I was like, I'm gonna suffer through and earn it, right?
Yeah.
And
It's the opposite. It's the complete opposite of the smart girl, right? What you were saying before. It's like she cannot fathom how to play because she does not know how to play, and she can only like rationalize things. So I love that you're in this zone now where it's like, I call it dancing within the framework, learning to dance within the framework and trust yourself and playing and exploring. And I love that. I love that you've got that curiosity and have found your little piece of happiness in the world, your little joy space. It's awesome.
And I didn't start here. I didn't start any. I mean, I wish there could be like a snapshot of me, like if I had done this interview 10 years ago and what I, and I say that, not that you have to use me as a model, but if anybody is listening to this and they just think, oh, you see this version of me and maybe this version of you, Leah, it's like, oh, it was always easier. She always had it figured out, or she always had the answers, or she always had that confidence, or she always had, it was like, no.
Yeah.
No. Snapping of the dog, I won the race that I could get to him faster. That was in dating, and then I married him.
Wow. It's yeah. Yeah.
Right? It's
like there are just no words for, are there? Like,
no, I just hope it helps someone else, right? And I hope that I want to be as honest as I can. And I could tell you some other stories that would not be appropriate to record that you would be more horrified than the stories I have told. But I feel like, if, are pretty, this is just facts about what happened, not my interpretation or slandering anybody or making them, this is just kind of facts, right?
Yes.
Of where this thing went. And it was horrific. I remember, like my hair falling out, blacking out while driving, my back was completely broken out. I was, probably 40 pounds heavier than I am right now, just from, I would eat a gallon of ice cream every night. Like, Christians couldn't drink, right? So the only so I'd eat a gallon of ice cream, and no one ever said, hey, maybe that's not healthy. But if you have a glass of wine, you're going to hell. But, a gallon of ice cream a night, no one had a concern with.
I'm so much thinking about the woman who is, she's high achieving, so she achieves her goals, but she's got this kind of facade and she's constantly trying so hard in all these different realms. Like, what is the message that you would have for her? I think that's what's so beautiful about you and your story, and you share your evolution, you share your vulnerabilities, and you share your heart. And so what's the message for the woman who is just constantly keeping the facade going, has to have it all together all the time?
Yeah. One, and I want to say this with kindness, I don't know that you're fooling anyone, or you're not really fooling the people that you want to fool, right? You're probably not fooling your children. You're not fooling your best friend. You're not fooling, I'm sure there's some people that you're fooling, but they're either not close to you or not smart. I think if anyone saw me on my hard days, would they be surprised? I want to be authentic and be honest. I want to be honest. I want to be honest with myself. I want to be honest with others. I want to be honest with my children. I want to, and honest in my strengths and my weaknesses. It's just so hard to fathom myself thinking I was that important again, that I had to look all together. And I say it with kindness and grace for the people in that situation, because that's not the way you're looking at it. And I understand, and I know, and you're trying to, be a good example for your kids and keep it all together. I know that's not what you're thinking. But now I would say, who did I think I was fooling? Why did I think I was so important? I think my kids really wouldn't know. They would know. Of course, the people who are closest to you are going to know if you're coping with exercise, or food, or alcohol, or sex, or sleep, or work, and of course, right? So I know that's probably an odd answer, but that's my most honest answer.
Good, because for me, it was like owning my value, that regardless of whether I was holding the facade and fooling everyone or not, I still was immeasurably lovable. I still was lovable. I still had value
with that. I know that's kind of that's the answer. I'm not surprised that you said that. And I just had a hard time going there. And probably
Yes.
I still do. Probably I still do. I had to find a workaround. I couldn't quite get to just like, I'm valuable.
Yes. It's like the stepping stones. I was the
Yeah.
same with I love myself, right? So for someone to go from I hate myself to I love myself, there's a lot of steps in between that. So it's okay if you just get to I dislike myself less, or I now feel neutral about myself. Like I'm okay. Or, and so it's understanding that journey of what you're saying with the workaround. It's funny because I moved to 3 acres and it's like very farm kind of. I love it. There's cows next door. There's a vegetable patch. Like, love it. And I get around here with just like, I look like a dag, no makeup on. And I love it. This is so much my zone. And I think for me, I've just learned that I'm so valuable and lovable. Like even in this space, even when I'm just like in my gum boots, like I love my gum boots. They're like my zone of happiness. And so when I'm in my gum boots and I'm just pottering around the yard, it's just such my happiness place. And just to feel lovable regardless, because I've always, put makeup on, and to feel so loved regardless is just like it's very liberating. And I'm still learning to love myself. I'm still learning. So it's such a journey and I love that you created a workaround, because that's really true in addressing where a lot of people are at.
I just put makeup on for this. I didn't even learn how to put makeup on until I was 30. Like
Yeah.
I did beauty pageant actually at 37 as a like testament to the new me, right? No,
That's amazing.
I guess it was hard. I mean, thank you. It was amazing, I guess.
So, where do you see yourself in the next few years? What is the impact that you would love to make? And what is the zone you're in right now? Because I know you've been in a bit of transition. You said the podcast is kind of on hold. You've been exploring comedy. Like, I love that you're in this exploring zone. Do you have bigger impact goals?
Yeah, I don't know. I know right now I felt like a very tugging in my heart to enjoy the happy because I had worked so hard for it. And I'm obviously very, 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 very passionate about the toxic person conversation. And I started to have some clients who I felt like had a hard time actually getting to happy. Like everything was kind of working out. They'd spent years and it was working out. And then they never quite, have I gotten to happy, or am I still immersed in all, some of the hardest things that have ever happened to me each day? What's that doing to my nervous system? What's that really doing? And so for 2023, I made a very conscious effort to lean into the happy and I didn't want to push away happy because I felt like it always had to be hard, which is I mean, even 3 years ago, I would have been like, no, how do you do that? How do you do that or whatever?
Yes.
There's no way. So this is where I am now. And it's the very, very, very first time in my life I've not had a plan and been comfortable with it.
Wow.
I feel like is the win for me. And I'm sure there is more to come. I'm sure there's going to be another step that I'm somehow preparing for right now that I don't know how it prepared for me right now, but I am happy and
Wow. I love that you're in this season. I think it's such a beautiful season after everything that you've been through. Not that you've earned the happy season, but it's so amazing that you get to just enjoy it. And I think allowing ourselves to enjoy it is such a big thing too, because it's being in like a receiving mode of, I'm just receiving and allowing the good things and feeling good things without the need to fix other people and help other people and keep moving forward. Like that's actually such a triumphant space to be in. I think
it was
totally
hard.
own that.
From coaching people how hard it is to get to that. And I just saw it so often in clients and I was like, oh, well, how am I doing at that? How am I doing? And I felt like I was out of integrity when I was trying to get them to the happy place, but I was still entrenched in honestly kind of some of the worst thing. I mean, this is the first time I've talked about this in nearly a year.
Wow.
To have a podcast that I talked about it every day. I mean, I used to have coaching practice and I talked about it every day. And this is the first time I've talked about it. All the new people in my new life. And my kids they don't know any of this about me, and I'm not hiding it, but I did. I had to man, what do I need to do for my nervous system to really step in to the most powerful version of myself?
Yes. It's like really anchoring in that this is your normal. Like the drama isn't the normal, the drama is the abnormal, and really being like, this is safe, happy, at peace. Yeah. It's really powerful.
That's some of what it was, Leah, is that there were some weird circumstances in my life. Like I'm just like going about my life and drama is coming to me and I'm, not engaging and it's not turning into this huge tumultuous situation like it used to. But it's a little more frequent than I would like to see continue.
Yeah.
Because it would be with these, it'd be hilarious stories. They're all great comedy routines, but it would be like this very like odd situation of I would just be like in my lane and other people would jump in my lane. I'm like, "Ah," and I
Yeah.
was like, huh, what? It was too frequent. And I really had to kind of think about my frequency and it was the conversations I was having, the work I was doing, contributing to that somehow.
For me, the reason I wanted to record my story was so I could get it done and not talk about it anymore, because a lot of it is just, it's so old and it's like continuously bringing up some of this old stuff. I know we've gone there a little bit today, but I think we've mostly kind of scratched the surface and focused more on the place you are now. And I think that's the key, is focusing on future, who you are now, what you are doing now and where you're going.
Well, I want to think about problem solving and hope, right? I could make you hate, I could tell you a story that would make you hate, not you, but like you would hate the church. You would hate nearly everyone in my life. You would feel sorry for me.
Mm-hmm.
And what's it solving, right?
Yeah.
It's like episode of, Real Housewives or True, it becomes very sensationalized.
Well, it anchors in victim more than, and I don't even like using the word victor, because I like the word victor is still about the abuse and still about the stuff that you went through. It's really about having the ability to just be yourself and not have to keep like rehashing, and energetically too, it's like just this tie. That's why I was like, I wanted to record my story, because I was like, I just want to cut the tie. Like I just don't, people ask me about my story all the time and I'm like, cool, here you go, here's the link to the episode.
It's like that with the books. Without a doubt, my was more popular. It was absolutely, and I love my second book, right? And because it's not about being kind without having your kind. It's not about anything bad that's ever happened to me. It's all about, problem solving and solution. I think every female, it's more geared to females, but I think every female in the entire world it will make everything in your life more streamlined and easy and make you have more time and all. I think it's magic, right? And everyone is like, your first book is magic. I'm like, I got over that. It's just like, in a very progressive way, in that, it is a good thing. But I did joke about my funeral at some point. I'm a preacher's kid, so I'm always thinking about funerals, right? And I said, if all they say at my funeral is that I was just, there's nothing wrong with being a wife and a mother, but if that's all they're saying about me at the funeral, I'm gonna, I've done all this work and trying to make people's lives sincerely better, and a lot of being honest, I think, and humble in the best way that I can to say it out loud so that their lives can be better. It's the legacy I'm currently leaving, so we'll see what the legacy ends up being. But,
I also think you're leaving a beautiful legacy just by being authentic and evolving and not being scared of the process. Like you're someone who's really.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And that's a very nice compliment. And, a life coach that worked with me 2 years ago would be dying laughing if they heard you said about me. So that's a new evolution. Thank you.
Yeah.
And that's not, I'm not naturally good at that. That's
it's a learned skill.
It's a learned behavior. Yes. Which I hope is helpful, because all these are learned behaviors. I used to be here and now I'm here. Right.
Yeah. And it's all overcomable, isn't it? It's all the growth mindset stuff. So Sarah, if someone wants to find you, follow you, where are they best to do that? What is the best next step that they can take?
Definitely you can follow me on Facebook, Sarah K Ramsey, and everything is under Sarah K Ramsey. Sarah Ramsey put up with a lot of things she shouldn't have. Sarah K Ramsey knows better. That's where that
2.0. I love that.
And so if you Google Sarah K Ramsey, I don't know what happens if you Google Sarah Ramsey, but if you Google Sarah K Ramsey, you're going to find me. The Toxic Person Proof podcast. And if you're someone, my Becoming Toxic Person Proof is really about that discernment piece. It's not going to be a recap of my story. It's just really that leaning in on learning to trust yourself and that discernment piece. There's some pieces of my story about being kind without having your kindness used against you, but it's a very applicable book on trusting yourself.
Super helpful. And it's such a skill to that will pay you back over your whole lifetime, over and over and over and over and over again.
And if there's you protect that you care about, nieces, nephews, kids, whatever, learning how to protect them against even like a child predator, having those workings to sense something's off and sense something's wrong, and helping that own discernment to protect yourself and others.
It's good. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your story and sharing your growth. I think that's what I'm most excited with you, this growth and this evolution and seeing what's next for you. But I love that you've really shared so openly, and that sharing the imperfection of it, the Brene Brown stuff, showing the gifts of imperfection and authenticity and just letting that shine through. So it's such a privilege to be able to watch that. And it's inspiring for me as well. Sometimes my inner perfectionist pops out and you feel like you've got to have it all together. And then you go on Facebook and you see posts of yours where it's just like, yeah, just that's who you are. And it's a beautiful gift to everybody else as well, as I know that's a gift to yourself. So thank you. Thank you for sharing your story and sharing all the tips and things today. I'm sure they're super helpful for everyone that's been listening.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining this expansive session. Subscribe or follow so you don't miss a show. And to help us share this message further, take a quick second to leave the Spiritually Unboxed podcast a rating and review. In iTunes, just click the reviews tab, and in Spotify, go to the main podcast page and tap the 3 horizontal lines under the podcast cover image. Now go out into the world and be the incredible masterpiece that you are. I'll see you in the next episode.